Number 9. Las Vegas Slasher. One day in 2022, a man asked a group of showgirls in Las Vegas if they'd take a picture with him. He then pulled out a large knife, like he was going to show it off. The showgirls were frightened, but before they could react, the man stabbed 30-year-old Maris DiGiovanni in the heart. He then turned and stabbed DiGiovanni's co-worker, 19-year-old Victoria Caetano, in the shoulder. The knifeman chased after some of the other dancers who were trying to run away and stabbed 26-year-old Anna Westby. By the time his spree came to an end, he had killed 2 people, including DiGiovanni and 47-year-old Brent Hallett. He also injured 6 others. Hallett's wife, Carmelita, told the Review-Journal that she was just walking with her husband when he suddenly flinched. A few moments later, he said, "I don't think I'm going to make it," and fell to the ground. Another victim who survived told ABC News that the attacker said, "Sorry, man," before plunging the knife deep in his back. Police detained 32-year-old Yanni Barrios shortly after the disturbing event and recovered his knife from shrubs nearby. According to an arrest report, Barrios told officers he thought the girls were laughing at him and making fun of his clothes. The women denied mocking him and said the attack was completely unprovoked. Either way, nothing justifies pulling a knife out and stabbing someone. Documents revealed a strange series of events leading up to the stabbing, including a friend inviting Barrios to stay at their home and then taking back the invite, and Barrios believing people were picking on him during a bus ride to the Las Vegas Strip. Even if he was having a bad day, there's no excuse for what he did. Barrios is currently being held without bail on 2 counts of open murder and 6 counts of attempted murder. Number 8. Murdered Medic. 61-year-old Allison Russo Elling served the New York City Emergency Medical Service for 24 years when her career came to an abrupt end in 2022. She was heading back to EMS Station 49 in Queens after her lunch break when a 34-year-old man named Peter Zisopoulos approached her and stabbed her over 20 times in broad daylight. 2 witnesses recognized the attacker and one chased him into a nearby building where he barricaded himself inside an apartment. A hostage negotiator eventually managed to persuade the suspect to leave the building and he was taken into custody. In the meantime, Russo Elling was rushed to a hospital, but it was too late to save her life. She was remembered for her bravery and dedication to the city and as one of the many heroes who responded to Ground Zero on the tragic day of 9/11. New York City Police Commissioner Keechant L. Sewell described the unprovoked killing of Russo Elling as yet another disturbing example of the Big Apple's increasing violent crime in recent years. Zisopoulos faces a murder charge, but is being held at a psychiatric hospital for evaluation while the case remains at a standstill. His lawyer, Wilson Antonio Lafori, told the judge that he doesn't think his client understands the charges against him. The next court hearing is scheduled for late 2022. Number 7. Suddenly Attacked Senior. 70-year-old Mary Jane Dustin went outside to exercise in Windsor Locks, Connecticut one morning in October of 2022 and wound up at the hospital with serious injuries. During her stroll, someone rushed up behind her and bashed her head with a closed fist. Mary Jane fell to the ground and was left with a broken finger and a major laceration to the head. Windsor Locks Police Lieutenant Paul Cherniak described the ordeal as a complete surprise of the worst kind, adding that Mary Jane was just trying to mind her own business when she was senselessly attacked in broad daylight. Police arrested 40-year-old Alexander Russell shortly after and charged him with first-degree assault and first-degree reckless endangerment. Days after, Mary Jane was still in the hospital recovering, according to her daughter, Kate Brenia, who spoke with NBC Connecticut. She said her mother was struggling with her memory and having trouble putting sentences together due to the head injuries. At the time, the neurologist treating Mary Jane predicted that she might make a full recovery, but only time would tell. Like many other people, Brenia was left wondering how someone could do such a thing to an innocent elderly stranger. Russell's attorney revealed in court that the defendant is homeless and has mental health issues. The judge ordered a competency evaluation to be carried out and set bail at $250,000 with a concern for public safety. Number 6. McDonald's mayhem. While enjoying a meal at McDonald's in Salt Lake City, Utah, one day in 2022, a 26-year-old man was attacked by a stranger. The offending party approached the victim and demanded money and his phone, according to police. He threatened to harm the customer if he failed to follow the attacker's demands, then ripped the gentleman's phone right out of his hand. Employees eventually stepped in and confronted the thief, later identified as 28-year-old Oscar Valdez, who allegedly threw the device at the man he took it from and then left the restaurant. The suspect returned a little while later and sucker punched the victim while he was still eating, causing him to black out and fall to the floor. According to an arrest affidavit, the victim was left with multiple injuries, including a loose tooth and a swollen lip. Valdez fled the scene on foot and reportedly went into a nearby clothing store, where he bought a pair of pants that he put on in an attempt to change up his appearance. He was found at a local supermarket with help from the victim, who identified him. Officers took Valdez into custody on suspicion of robbery and assault causing substantial injury. Number 5. Unprovoked slaying. One morning in November of 2022, a man approached a 26-year-old civilian at a bus stop in San Francisco and pulled the unsuspecting commuter into a 7-Eleven, where he beat them. He then attacked several more people, including an elderly employee who was trying to call 911. After that, the attacker left the store and beat a 77-year-old man named Richard Owens to death. The suspect, 32-year-old Charles Short, was later charged with murder, kidnapping, assault, mayhem, and robbery. Nearby resident Geisha Galloway told KTVU that there was a lot of blood and a tarp covering the victim's body. In her words, it didn't look right. She said that she usually avoids walking in the area due to a concerning uptick in random violent encounters between normal people and unhinged members of society who attack with a warning. Another local, who asked not to be named, expressed fear at the realization that someone had been brutally beaten to death in his neighborhood. He said that he worked at an auto repair shop where he had gotten used to mentally ill people coming into the business. On one occasion, a so-called crazy guy went into a shop and even beat up some workers. At number 4, Good Samaritans to the rescue. In October of 2022, a 29-year-old woman became a violent assault victim in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. She was on her way home to her apartment one night when a man she didn't recognize followed her into the building's lobby. He then threw the woman to the floor and assaulted her until she was able to break free and run away. The suspect pursued and tackled the woman to the ground, but 6 brave bystanders intervened and held him until police arrived. Officers arrested 19-year-old Bryce Michael Flores Bevington in connection to the disturbing assault. A woman who saw the ordeal and who lives in the same apartment building was shaken by the violent encounter. She and her roommate were riding the elevator down when they heard the victim screaming. The unnamed resident described the sound as bone-chilling, despite all the noise she had gotten used to while living in downtown Vancouver. When they got off the elevator, the woman and her friend saw flyers and other trash scattered everywhere. Then they saw the suspect on top of the victim, holding her on the ground. And while nobody was seriously injured, including the victim, it certainly left deep, lasting psychological scars. According to the last update, police were investigating to determine whether Flores Bevington might be connected to any other unsolved assaults throughout the city. Number 3. Slain Cyclist. In October 2022, 49-year-old Jeffrey Chapman was riding his bike in Clearwater, Florida just after midnight when 2 men approached him and bludgeoned him to death with a tire iron. He wasn't targeted for any specific reason, according to police, but just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. The fatal attack on Chapman came about an hour after a similar assault around the corner, which the victim survived but sustained severe injuries in. Officers tracked one of the suspects, Jermaine Bennett, to his workplace at an optician's office based on surveillance footage and with some help from witnesses who provided information about his car. Bennett initially denied the crime but owned up to it. He told police that he committed the brutal act because of the ills of society. He now faces a first-degree murder charge. Local news station WFLA reported that Bennett showed no emotion as he stood before the judge at his arraignment. He's being held without bond as he awaits his next hearing. The other suspect in the case, 18-year-old Savon Morrison, was captured several days after the murder. He was charged with first-degree murder and is also being held without bail in the Pasco County Jail. Number 2. Teen tragedy. A young man named Kyle Punko was walking near a high school found in Waverly, Nebraska one day in 2022 when he saw another teen eyeing him. Punko began to think the man was following him, so he asked him what he wanted. Speaking with local news station KETV after the fact, Punko remembered that the man following him said he was just trying to make friends. Punko made it clear that he wasn't interested and started walking away, at which point he felt a blade plunge into his back 2 times. He fought back against his attacker, and they struggled over the knife until Punko hit the man's head onto the ground. At that point, the attacker ran away. But that was far from the end. Punko lost consciousness and fell into a small creek where the knife-wielding teen returned and stabbed him again, 4 more times. Both the victim and attacker called 911 to report the incident. During his call, the attacker said he had committed a murder and was still armed with a weapon. Punko was lucky enough to survive after having emergency heart surgery, and the man who attacked him was arrested in connection to the incident. The Punko family didn't know the suspect and believed he had recently moved to the area with his family. With no clear motive for the attack, authorities think the culprit was waiting for a target to walk by, and that the victim just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Number 1. A young mother murdered. Eliza Fletcher was the granddaughter of a billionaire from Memphis, Tennessee, and was supposed to inherit his fortune. But she lived a pretty average life as both a mother and a kindergarten teacher. During an early morning jog one day in September of 2022, she was kidnapped, leading to speculation that someone targeted her in hopes of collecting a hefty ransom. But that theory was ruled out a few days later when Eliza's corpse was found in an abandoned building. While authorities have released little details on how she died, they made it clear that they think she was murdered. 38-year-old Cleotha Abston Henderson has been arrested in connection with the crime. The attack on Fletcher was random, according to Shelby County District Attorney Steve Mulroy, who said there's no evidence the victim and suspect knew each other. In the wake of the disturbing death, female joggers across the U.S. were left feeling worried about their safety. But the incident struck a painful nerve for 22-year-old Alicia Franklin, who told the press that Henderson had attacked her the year before. In a lawsuit against the city of Memphis, Franklin accused local law enforcement of not taking her case seriously. Shortly after Franklin reported the attack to authorities, Henderson was charged with kidnapping and assault. But the victim believed the police failed to treat her complaint with much, if any, urgency. She also accused the Memphis Police Department of not thoroughly investigating the case and falling short of their due diligence. Her lawsuit says if the detectives had done more, Eliza Fletcher's murder could have been prevented entirely. Franklin's allegations include a lot of good points, especially since detectives rushed to perform DNA tests in Fletcher's case, but allegedly failed to take basic investigative measures concerning her complaint. According to a recent update, an advocacy group is seeking answers about why Henderson was allowed to roam the streets at the time of Fletcher's murder, especially when there was enough cause to keep him locked away in custody. Thanks for watching. Would you rather have a stranger approach you and try to steal your phone, or have someone accuse you of hitting them when you had never even seen them before? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time. Bye for now.